Hi, this is Krishna, and I'm just giving some thoughts now to really my reflections on a week of updates on Periscope. And you may have updated the app yourself today, and if you did, you saw that there was a number of changes that they made on the app. So I'm just sharing here my thoughts and would be interested in terms of what you would add. So put your comments there. I'm going to try my best to look at your comments that you may have. So thanks so much for joining. And if you saw the update today, there was a few things that they did that are going to make it much better for us. One being particularly in terms of the issue of privacy. And thanks, I can see somebody putting in one comment there about landscape. I'm going to come to that. I've got some thoughts. So and geographical location. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. I think really importantly for privacy, and particularly if we have younger users using it, not everybody knows to go to the app to actually check their privacy and particularly location. So they've made a change there so it's not so specific in terms of information there. So that's great. Topical tagging and categories. So thanks for sharing that as an idea. So I'm going to capture all of this and come back to it. Let me move on to some other thoughts I had, and some of them you've actually touched on. But I think these are some missing features that for me would be a little better. So the first thing is searching for topics. In fact, somebody just said there, the idea of categorizing. I do like the fact that they've made it a little easier to search for topics, because now the people that you follow, actually that content will be at the top. Very often I turn off my notifications if I'm busy, but today I wanted to kind of multitask, and I was going between Meerkat and Periscope in terms of content of people that I watch out for. That's a great idea. Stream embedding for HTML. Thank you for sharing that idea too. But I do think that there's some really good content I've found on both Meerkat and Periscope. And obviously it's down to how we put a title in there for that topic. Now, one suggestion that I heard somebody mention on, I think it was the Independent newspaper in the UK, they were doing a quick review of the on Periscope. And they've actually only done 2 events. Actually, that's interesting, on-screen branding. Yeah, I guess you could do that through the content that you might share, let's say your backdrop that you have, certainly for live streams. Typically, you might do it in a backdrop. Of course, if it's something like a Google Hangout, you could have a lower third there. So that might be a pro feature that could be brought out. But the Independent actually gave a useful tip. And they said, go to the web and do a search for, the live stream. I've forgotten the example of what would be tweeted out now when I've live streamed this, but search for that and then a keyword. I think that's an interesting way to find content. I hadn't considered doing that. I do often go to Google to look for Twitter accounts when I'm looking to find somebody and I want to quickly identify them, because you don't always know what their name is. But I think the ability to search for topics, and I like the idea that somebody gave before about categorizing topics as well. So that was one of my first things I was thinking of. The second for me, as somebody who's creating content here, is about being able to view comments when they've been posted. So now all of those comments that have been shared, I've been doing my best to try to capture them in this live stream, because I can't go back and actually check the comments. So I'd like to be able to have an ability, if it wasn't ultimately for archiving, which I put here, certainly I'd like to be able to view comments and be able to scroll back as you can with Meerkat. So that would, I think for me, would make it helpful, not just as a user, but also as a content creator. Blocking and reporting. There's been some really good content that I've viewed today, but I have to say that the comment stream, it's actually really difficult to be able to go back and report on people. I'd like to actually see that, let's say, for example, somebody was doing an event and there's clearly abusive and really inappropriate comments that were being shared. I really would like to have the ability to then, maybe you had a moderator in that could actually just block that person, because it puts other people off. If you see such horrible comments there, it's going to turn other people off from watching. And I don't think that's the intention at all of Periscope or Twitter. So that would be another thing to easily block. But do let me know what your thoughts are. Do you agree with these? Maybe you could let me know in the comments. Sharing to Twitter. I know some people don't like this. I do like the ability to share to Twitter. I'm going to come back, I'm going to write here, may flick to the left to mute on the current feed. That's interesting. That's a great comment. Shot steadying. Yeah, sorry guys, my shot isn't very steady here at the minute because I don't have a tripod of the right height and I didn't have enough books around to put it on. So I've got a low tripod or a high tripod. And it's a bit of a challenge because I'm trying to get something else that's going to be able to hold my phone in terms of in vertical format. But sharing to Twitter, oh, thank you. Mine's better than most. I'm doing my best. Thank you very much. Sharing to Twitter. I definitely shared this to Twitter initially when I came on here in terms of to live stream. But what I do like about Meerkat is that you have the ability to turn on or off sharing to Twitter for every comment. And my experience is that I actually have grown an audience on Meerkat faster and sustained an audience on Meerkat versus on Periscope. And when I've looked at other people's content and I looked at organisations like Mashable, who are clearly broadcasters now, sharing lots of different content, they've also found the same and they've reported the same too. And I do think part of it is the fact that you could be commenting out to Twitter, then that brings other people to watch the event. And so I'm not sure if that's actually proven, but that's certainly been my experience. So I'd like the ability to actually share some of the comments to Twitter that I would post on somebody else's stream. Okay, actually I had archiving of comments there. I should have taken that out. I've covered archiving previously. I'd like to be able to archive it and go back. And the reason I'd like to do that, as answer that a little bit further, is that I'd like to be able to go back and yes, I can see who was in the stream afterwards, but actually it would be nice to go back and interact and engage with some of those people. It's much easier to do on Meerkat if people have shared comments over to Twitter. And again, good practice that I've seen from some producers of content and some broadcasters, and I say broadcasters with a small b, I'm not talking about national broadcasters or international broadcasters, I'm talking about people like you and I, is where people have come back and engaged and said thank you. And I saw somebody from Fox News do that to me in the first week of Meerkat being around, but the only reason they could have easily found me is the fact that I actually commented over on Twitter, and they came back and they actually interacted with me, and then you can take a conversation further. I actually had a situation for a non-profit. I was broadcasting about an event in the UK, which I happened to be visiting for a tourism exhibition, and the global organisation of that organisation got in contact with me because, again, they could see the comments that were there. And that was great because they were obviously listening to the social media monitoring or monitoring the content there. Okay, I know this might be something that you might not like, but turn off the hearts. I'd like the ability to also, turn them off. And I know there's a lot of conversation about what happens if there's a disaster. And I know that one of my friends was on here. I'm not sure if you're still here, Rich. Rich is an authority in crisis management, and he has the crisis management show. You can find, he's been doing that for probably about 3 years now. Really great archive of content for about 3 years. You'll find it over on YouTube. So you'll find him under the name of Rich Klein. And so, Rich, if you're still here, I'm sure that you have a point of view on this as well. Because if there's something like a disaster going on, I know some people have commented saying, oh, well, that could be saying that our hearts go out to them. But I don't know that I necessarily would always want to have hearts there. And sometimes, actually, I've found that if I've tapped the screen by accidentally, I've sent a heart out. I didn't mean to do that. I was maybe just fiddling with my screen. So I'd like the ability that we could turn those on and off. And I also see a lot of gamification there. Nothing wrong with gamification at all, but I just think that when I see, oh gosh, let's get lots of hearts here for this piece of content, and I really have to wonder, is that the best content? I mean, some of the best content I've seen hasn't got many hearts against it. Don't know what your thoughts are. Those of you who are still with me here on this, let me know what your view is in terms of, do you like the hearts or not? And you can comment or heart on that. But it's hard to know when somebody hearts it, whether what their sentiment is. Landscape view, I know somebody mentioned this before. I would really like to do better repurposing of my content because it's available on Periscope for a day, 24 hours. If I can save it to my camera roll, I can then repurpose it. But it would be good to also share it in landscape. In fact, I watched an event today that was completely broadcast in landscape, and there was lots of comments about it in the stream. It was from somebody who's very well known. And I think the reason that they did it was probably they were actually capturing the recording so that they could repurpose it later. And they didn't really care that it wasn't in portrait view for the Periscope presentation. And I know that that frustrated some of the viewers, but I'm sure that the reason would have been that they actually wanted to repurpose it. I've tried and I've looked at various apps to be able to quickly take content, because one of the things about this, so great about this app and also Meerkat, is that it's simple to use. I love Google Hangouts on Air. I've used them for many years. I have also shown people how to use them and teach people how to use them in their communications. However, it's complicated. It's not so simple. Periscope and Meerkat are really simple to use. So this goes for both Meerkat and Periscope. I'd love to see the ability to also have a landscape view, particularly for those of us who do want to repurpose. It will be interesting to see whether or not I can repurpose this easier because I've actually got words in the middle of a screen, and I might therefore just capture that middle part of it. Copyright notice. Okay, if you've heard me speak previously on any other Meerkats or Periscopes that I've been doing over the last few weeks, one of the things that's important, I think, that is being neglected is the issue of copyright and the issues of just general rights. And so there was interesting, actually, I was reading some press around horse racing in the UK. There's a race course, and I actually have done some work with race courses over the year for Horse Racing Ireland. So that's why I was paying attention to it. But they've actually, a particular race course in the UK have said that they're not going to be really endorsing photographers going forward who are taking photographs of, badly dressed females who are going to races, because it's putting people off. And, it's not appropriate. People race meeting and they go with the intent of having a good time, and the last thing they expect is their photograph to be, lambasted all over the sports pages about how, or even the fashion pages about how badly dressed they were. Oh, I saw a whole lot of comments come in there. I missed all of those, don't know what happened. So if I haven't been reading them out, guys, you may want to type them in again, but they just came up in a full screen and I lost everything. So that was actually before, I think, Periscope and Meerkat had been released. But in terms of the issues of rights, if you're a photographer, rights, or you're taking photographs at an event, you need to make sure that you have got the rights of somebody to take photographs, particularly if you've got youth there, if you've got young people there as well. And I've seen some things where people, and also people who are considered luminaries in digital communications, they live streaming content from places that it's very clearly the other people didn't know they were doing this. I know that it's going to be difficult to stop people doing this, but one thing that Google Hangouts does have is that it does have a notice there that probably people skip through to say, are you aware this is going to be live streamed? Are you aware that you've got the right you've got the rights to this content? I've been looking online, and actually I should just mention over on Pinterest. If you follow me on Pinterest, or just hop over to pinterest.com/Krishna Day, you'll find a couple of boards there that I've been curating, which are marketing with Meerkat and marketing with Periscope. And particularly in the Periscope piece of content there, I've been curating some content about sports organisations in terms of rights there. So, there are very clearly rights to content. So if you think about the world of sports, there's usually broadcasting rights to that content, and that's been signed away. And in fact, one of the articles that's there actually talks about the fact that people don't have the rights, nor do the event organisers have the right to live stream that content. So that's one thing in terms of who has those rights. Again, in terms of audiences. Now, going back to Ireland again for a minute, the Script, an Irish band, they were playing in Australia yesterday. And it was interesting because there was somebody on their behalf doing a live stream, and they did it in short segments, which basically was each song. And that was great. People loved it. And it was, you could see people saying, oh, I just can't wait to see them again. Or I really miss them from being in London, or roll on them coming into Croke Park, I think it was, that where they're going to be playing. And so there is definitely an opportunity. Katy Perry has said that she's going to embrace it. She's going to go with it. But there are lots of other people who are saying, no, it's not going to be permitted. So I do think a bit of education, or even if it was just a little flag at the top saying, are you aware that, or have you got permission? Now, when it comes to things like even conferences, I saw some people who were actually live streaming a webinar, and it wasn't their webinar. They were not the owners of that. Comment here say, it'd be interesting to see if cable companies go after Periscopers and Meerkatters with lawsuits. Yeah, it will be. Thanks, Rich, in terms of that comment. So I do think there's a whole piece that's going to be sorted out around the whole issue of copyright. But back to that event organizer, it happened to be a webinar, and it's interesting because that event organizer it was a free event, but what they would be often doing is looking for people to sign up with names and email addresses. And then somebody else is live streaming that, and it's not their content to live stream. Well, what does that mean? Now, did it mean that they might bring other people in, but that person wasn't connected with the organization, and they live streamed all of that content? And I don't think I'd be very happy if I was that organizer of that event. And when it comes to other paid for events like conferences, so I've seen a number of people stream from conferences. They may have got the permission of the speakers, but did they have the permission of the organization to live stream? Where, particularly if that conference is quite expensive for people to attend. So there's some thoughts in terms of what I would say I think would make it a better user experience. Thanks for your suggestions. I've got a question there at the end saying, what would you add? So if there's anything else that you'd add, I'd love to know. Thanks to those of you who stayed around. I can see somebody just joined us. Sorry, we're just about to end this, and I'm going to leave the replay up so you'll be able to go back. I really appreciate the thoughts that other people have shared. Conference organizers would be smart to, I think it says, meant to say allow it. I think that's an interesting idea in terms of allowing it. The thing for me would be, do you allow all of it? I think probably allow part of it. Now, I've seen some interesting things today, like there was somebody who was doing, so limited is the comment there. Yeah, that's great. One of the things that I saw somebody do today was they jumped onto Periscope to drive people over to a Twitter chat. And I thought it was an interesting idea. Maybe paid streams, that's another way that we could monetize that. Maybe that could be a pro scheme that could be available. I guess you could already do paid streams, which would be using Periscope, where you can have it for private. So you could actually invite just a few people. So you could do, let's say, a mastermind. Maybe you've got a conference, or you're a mentor or a coach, and you've got an elite mastermind or something like that. You could actually invite people in to Periscope. Now, the challenge is that it's obviously still on iOS. The announcement today, with the update today, if you haven't downloaded it already, they actually have said, they're working on it. And there's also a blog post over that you'll actually find from the Periscope Twitter account. You'll be able to get over to that. So we really need to be available Android and other devices, in terms of making it the use of it. So, being able to participate on the web. Unless checking switch to say you have full permissions, it's limited to 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not sure I fully understand your comment there. Oh, is that in terms of the private one? I haven't tried a private one. Perhaps you could just comment back there. Was it for copyright? Okay. All right. So you're saying in terms of a copyright, in terms of organisations, 2 to 3 minutes, and conferences. Yeah. So thanks for commenting about that. I think again, I know that some organisations would have a problem even with that, in terms of my experience of some people in the leisure and entertainment industry. And I've actually seen, notices, and I think we're probably going to see more of them in terms of notices at events. Who knows what's going to happen? I think the thing is, if people then repurpose the content, and people then can be identified about that. Oh, one other thought I had, I don't know if you guys have thought of this, Please don't Periscope sign. One other thought I had is I've gone onto some Periscopes where it's actually been as low as about 150, but it's actually been typically around 250 people. When there's about 250 people who've been commenting, and I guess it's about the frequency of the comments, it's actually shut the commenting off. And the other thing I found is that once that's shut off, even if let's say you had 250 people, then it drops back to like 100 and something people. Those other people still can't comment. Which I think is a bit of a shame. Now, I've never reached that number on Periscope. I've got to over 100 in terms of content on Meerkat. So as I say, in Periscope, I haven't had that large an audience. Now, I haven't done things like, highly promote it. I mean, this was just literally, let's get my thoughts out there, and here's some of my initial thoughts. But I really appreciated you being here today and adding to this. Maybe that's the way to do it. So do something like, here's a presentation you're about to do, or here's a blog post. Now again, that for me would be good to have the comments there or an archive to go back to so that I can fully attribute. So we've had some great comments here from people. Those comments aren't in the recording, the names of the people. And so I can't fully attribute the ideas to those people. But again, that comes back to the idea of having the archive. So there's two of you who've stayed around. Thanks so much for being here. Let's see who it is. Rich and Lee. Lee, you're actually from Leicester. Is that right? Okay. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. If there's anything else that you'd want to add, please do so. Otherwise, I'm going to be signing off here. And have a great afternoon if you're in the States, and a great evening if you're here in Europe. Bye.